Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm basically going to be playing a note and delaying my recall of it. So, the way this is working, in case this is confusing to anybody, is I'm doing kind of a 30-day trial where I'm just playing around with different perfect pitch experiments. And at the end of each week, on Wednesday, happens to be the end of the week, I'm going to post a video that consolidates a lot of the stuff that I felt worked and leaves out some of the stuff that I felt didn't work. And so what I'm basically doing here is creating a free course live. Now, this is not how I create courses normally. Normally, when I create a course, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of drawing from previous experience, but perfect pitch is a new thing that I'm trying to help people develop. And for that one, I feel like I just want to make it free, at least for the immediate future. I don't want to be charging for this. So I am enjoying this process so far. I haven't really noticed anything substantial, nothing to write home about, but I am enjoying the process and I'm starting to hear subtle differences between the notes, but I've always kind of had a little bit of tone awareness. And so this is just making it stronger. Whether or not that will develop into perfect pitch, I don't know. Now, what I will say, for those of you who are like, well, he's always had tone awareness, so he's always had some sense of what the pitches are. Not always. When I was younger, when I played euphonium, that was my primary instrument. I could tell differences between the notes, but I always thought that was due to the different instrument fingering combinations. So if I push down 2 and 3, it has a more stuffy sound. If I push down 1 and 2, somehow it'd be brighter. I later, much later, started to think, well, actually, maybe those are actual pitches I'm hearing, but I couldn't hear it on any other instrument. I could only hear it on the euphonium. So over time, especially as I started using the piano every single day at the university to teach students ear training and music theory, as I became more familiar with the sound of the piano, I started to hear differences between those tones as well. But just like with the euphonium, it's not like I could pick a note out of the air and sing it and tell you that's a B flat. Or if you go to the piano and play a note, it's a 1 in 7 chance, 1 in 12 chance I'm going to get it right. If you play the Y key, it's like 1 in 7. So it's not that I have this great ability for perfect pitch, but I have had a life in music. And so I do think that helps. And it also maybe hinders a little bit because with all that experience, with all the relative pitch training, with my ear in its current state, it might make it a little bit harder for me to hear music differently, to hear notes as individual pitches that have kind of their own character and life of their own. So, don't get discouraged. I would say it's worth spending 30 days, 15 minutes a day to see if you develop anything. And if after 30 days, probably won't have perfect pitch, but if after 30 days you can start to hear a difference between the individual tones, even if you can't label them, I would say maybe it's worth 15 minutes a day to continue the training and to continue trying to develop this. I still think that relative pitch is going to be way more valuable than perfect pitch. And this is just based on my experience. Perfect pitch does give you certain distinct advantages. You'll be able to know what key you're in. If you get lost, you can actually tune into individual parts and know what notes are actually being played. There's a lot of benefits to perfect pitch, but overwhelmingly, when it comes to performing as a musician, I think relative pitch still wins. And there's just a different way of listening to music. I mean, when you use relative pitch, you're hearing the relationships. In my opinion, it's faster and it can be trained. That's kind of the important thing here. Perfect pitch, on the other hand, if you're born with it, then that's fantastic. But it's a very difficult thing to train. And some would say, well, it's difficult because it's so simple. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's simple because anything that requires you to come in daily and work for months to develop a basic skill, I don't call that simple, even if the exercises themselves might be simple. So we're going to see where this goes. Today, what we're doing is we're focusing on 3 notes. C, D, and E. And we're going to do it in a little bit of a particular way. So the first one we're going to do is kind of like an echo. I'm going to play only a C, a D, or an E. I'm going to wait a few seconds. I'm not going to audiate it. I'm not going to do anything with it. And then I'm going to try and hear it in my mind. That's important. And then I will sing it. That's mostly for your benefit, but then I'll sing it to match the note on the piano. So we're going to start here with C. So hopefully everybody can hear that. So I'm going to play this note, and then I'm going to wait a few seconds, and then I'm going to audiate it, and then I'm going to sing it. So if you don't know what audiate means, that it's inner hearing, you try and play it back in your mind. Here we go. C. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. A very easy exercise. This won't be hard for most of you, but we're trying to develop this connection to the note. C. C. Now I'm audiating. C. And ideally, if you're doing this at home, maybe you'd wait 10 or 15 seconds or even do something else. So go ahead and play the C. Just listen to it. Don't internally hear it or anything like that. And then you go over here, you look at something, you read a paragraph, maybe, I don't know, answer an email. And then you come back a few seconds later, see, you audiate it first and then you sing it. We're going to do it a few more times. Now that you kind of understand how this drill works, we're just going to hear the C and then I'll move on to D eventually. I'm not going to sing anymore. I was doing that for you to kind of show you how long to wait, but I'm going to actually try and work this drill now. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be very silent. I'm going to play the C, and then I'm going to wait a few seconds, hear it in my mind, play it again, wait a few seconds, hear it in my mind. The gap matters. You have to put some space between the note and hearing it in your mind. I don't know about you, but I've been doing this seventh day now. That D sounds very different than the C. I mean, I've always heard a subtle shift, but it's becoming more obvious. The real test will be when I add E. Does E also have that different texture? Yeah, that's C, very different. Here's the D. All right, we're gonna add E. So I'm hearing the difference between C and D, but the E sounds all like the D to me now, which it wasn't like that yesterday. So now I'm going to switch it up. We're going to do something a little different. It's the same drill, but in a different way. I'm going to hear the note in my mind first, either a C, a D, or an E. I'm going to hold it in my mind for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'm going to play it on the piano to make sure I got it right. Now, this is one that's going to be a little bit difficult for me to program. So when you get the exercises on Wednesday, if this drill makes it in and you make a mistake, what you want to do is find the note that you are humming. I'm also intentionally trying to talk for a little bit so I forget what the notes sound like. So that's part of the training is we want to hear what we thought was a C. That's the note we're going for. We want to hear what note we actually heard. And when I'm hearing the note, I'm trying to get the sensation that I believe I'm hearing. Whether it's in my head or not, I don't know. The test will be at the end of this if I can identify C, D, E, all these notes consistently, right? So here we go. Okay, so I got the C right. First time I didn't hear the D, the quality. I mean, I got it right, but I didn't hear the quality the second time I did. So it's like these qualities are coming and going. Sometimes I'll hear them, and other times they'll just sound like the same note. Almost, I can definitely hear it due to the relative pitch, but they'll sound like the same note. They don't have anything distinguishing about them. Like right now, these two are kind of sounding the same. So I'm going to see if I can get it back. Okay, so we're going to do one more drill. And by the way, the colors are more like they were on day one now. They're almost there, but not quite. All right. So if you're listening along with me, and you're experiencing something, post something in the chat. I can see it, or post a comment so that I can see what you're experiencing. All right. So for this one, I'm going to start on C and I'm going to use C and D. And I'm going to actually compare C and D and C and E. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. I'm just listening. I heard it that time. The important thing is I'm going back to C. Always comparing everything to C right now. Now I'm going to use D as the anchor. Now E. That was very different. Okay, so I ended again today hearing a slight difference between C, D, and E. What is a little bit interesting is yesterday when I was playing the C, D, and then I added E, the E was very recognizable. Today it sounds more like the D. So I think it depends on how much I've been practicing, but we're going to continue this again tomorrow. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in, below, and we'll continue this.